Oh, there we go.
Oh, hey everybody. Welcome
Hello.
to another episode of the Soul Goals. With a little technical difficulty, we do get things underway. Yes, yes.
We got it.
Yeah. I'm Dawn, and delightfully,
I'm Dixie.
and sitting right next to you is literally someone that looks just like you.
I'm Anna. Hello.
Hey, this is Anna. This is Dixie's daughter. And Dixie, I asked Dixie if she would be willing to do one of these weeks with her lovely daughter, Anna. And specifically, I like this week because it talks about sleep hygiene and what the importance of that is. And Anna is a former Division I athlete, correct?
Mhm.
Yes. Beach volleyball. Yes. Yes. And Anna just graduated. So tell us a little bit about where you are in your journey right now, because you were living in California and going to school there, and now you are here in the Nashville area. Give us a little lowdown about your background, where you come from, where you are headed, if you will.
Mhm. Yeah, so I am obviously from Nashville, was raised here. I played beach volleyball all throughout high school and then went to college. I did 2 years Division I and then actually transferred to a lower division just to have a little more balance, but still that like highly competitive nature.
Right.
And so that's where I ended up in California. And yeah, now I just graduated and I'm applying to grad school and just working right now. And yeah.
Yes, and doing life, which is a big
Mhm.
deal as a 20-something
Yes.
female. Yeah, figuring out where you're going to
Yes.
go and what's happening.
Mhm.
But I
Yes.
was really excited to say, hey, Dixie, do the sleep thing with your daughter, because you know, Anna, as a former athlete, the importance of sleep and what that does for your body and what it does when you don't get enough or the right kind of sleep. So, our sole goal for this week was exploring sleep hygiene and specifically kind of picking a format that you could stick with personally
Mhm.
for a 7-day stretch. So, I'm excited to hear about what you gals chose to do and how that went for you.
Yeah.
Well, Anna, I've always called her the sleep queen. You always have prioritized sleep. Like, she's my kid from the get. Like, she slept all through the night the first day home from the hospital.
What?
Yes. My sister-in-law came and stayed with me because my husband was traveling on work. And she woke up the next morning and she said, Anna scared me to death. And I was like, what happened? Is she okay? She's like, yes, she slept through the night. And that child has been that child forever. She
Oh,
will, I mean, she'll leave whatever and like, y'all, I'm going to bed. I've got
yeah.
to sleep. So
Okay.
she's always been my little sleep queen.
Good. Okay. Okay. So
Yeah.
you like came out the womb knowing what you needed to do, basically.
Yes.
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 My other
Okay.
kid, not so much. He's not a sleep king, but she was like always valued sleep. So
Right.
um
Right.
I love sleep, but it's not always the easy grab for me.
Yeah.
Especially when I work late. Like when I come home, I want to like take a hot bath. I mean, even if I don't get home until like 10 or 10:30 at night after the restaurant
Mhm.
closes, I want to take a hot bath. I want to relax for a minute. And before you know it, it's like midnight or after, and I'm finally winding down to go to sleep. And
Yeah.
that's when I work late. But it's not as easy as a grab for me as it is for Anna for sure. Yeah.
Same thing for me.
Mhm.
I find a hard time. And I actually, my oldest is home from college right now too. And we were laughing about it because she's like, do you sleep? Because like we all go to sleep. I'm like, I don't know. As a mom, I've always been kind of this way. Like I enjoy, and I'm sure other moms that are listening can totally adhere to this deal too. Like you're busy. You got a lot going on. Your household is active. I know your household is active right now, Dixie. You got a lot
Right.
going
We
on.
got
So
lots of
when,
grown people in this house.
yeah, but just a lot of activity happening,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So when that activity kind of finally settles, then you're like, it's nice to be in my space that I really love and be quiet. Like there's
Mhm.
nothingness happening. And for me, getting up early in the morning doesn't do it for me. I can't do that. I hit that snooze button, which later on we're going to do a snooze one too. Just FYI, if you didn't know.
Oh, I can tell
Um,
you how many times I pushed snooze just this morning.
Me too. Me too. But I stay
I
up late just because I like that kind of quiet time. And then I pay for it the
yes.
next day. And I know
Oh,
better.
yeah, for sure. I actually set my alarm to plan for all the snoozing.
We are the same person.
I know,
We do the
right?
same thing.
I know my
Literally.
husband just, I guess he's fine with it. He's never said anything about it. But like if I need to get up by 7:30, I have an alarm set for 6 and an alarm set for 7. And I'm snoozing every 9 minutes. Tink. And it's not a violent sounding alarm. It's just a nice peaceful one, but still.
Same, same, same.
Yeah, that's what we
Yeah.
do.
So what did you guys choose to do this week? What were some of the things that you decided, hey, I need to change, or hey, I need to incorporate, or hey, I need to dive deeper into?
What about you?
Yeah, I feel like I've learned a lot about sleep, especially in college, because as like when I was like a freshman and sophomore, I our practices were in the afternoon, and
Mhm.
so we would stay up so late, but then we would sleep in really late. So we would technically get 8 hours, 10 hours of sleep, but I still felt like crap all the time.
Mm, yeah,
And we weren't like drinking. We like stuck to like these things to like perform well, but for some reason the staying up late, like it was crazy. And then when I moved to California, our practices were at 6 a.m. So I went to bed at like 8 p.m., like super
okay,
early to still get that. And one thing I learned and I tried to incorporate this week is I think that and I can't take credit for this. I read a book that was explaining this, but there is like a right 8 hours and not a wrong 8 hours, but like if you're looking for like peak performance or like to feel your best, there is a time frame of the night that is like optimal sleeping
yeah,
time. And it's anywhere from like 9 or 10 to like 6 or 7, like kind of in that range. And
right.
so when I was doing that in California, I actually felt so good every day. And so this week I tried to just not go to bed later than like 10, 11, which some nights, like I know New Year's Eve was last week. So
Oh,
some nights
right,
that did not happen.
right.
But I really tried to focus on that and getting that full like 8 hours and like trying
Mhm.
to be strict with like even last night I kind of wanted to stay up and watch another episode of my show and I was like it's 9:30, like no, I need to go to bed, like.
Oh, good for you.
But yeah, so I was just like trying to get that right 8 hours of sleep.
Mhm,
And on the days that I do, and the days where I get up earlier because I went to bed earlier, I
mhm.
do feel more productive. I feel like in volleyball, I felt more like my reaction time was better.
Oh,
I could
wow.
like, yeah. And then if I either didn't get enough sleep or did the like kind of the wrong hours of sleep, I felt like sluggish. I felt a little slower.
So
And so,
interesting.
yeah, that's super interesting. There, I
Mhm.
can't remember what the book was called, but he was explaining like how your brain like functions and it's
Yeah.
like all biological.
Yes, and I actually it's so funny you brought that up. I've heard about that too. I can't recall where I read about it. It was a reel actually that I watched that
Hmm.
someone is describing those peak hours. It's basically what you said. It's that 9, 10 o'clock sweet spot going to bed and getting up at 6 or 7. So you're getting it's I don't know if it has to do with circadian rhythms,
Yeah, I think it
you
Yeah.
know,
does.
and the cycle of day to night and the time frame.
Hmm.
But it's so interesting. I love that you can connect that when your sleep was fundamentally sound, you could perform better, and you saw that and you got those cues, and it really
Yeah.
made a difference for you.
Yeah.
That's really cool. I think
Mhm.
too, I think you think
Mhm.
sharper
Yeah,
when you have the right sleep, because even like when I open the restaurant, I mean I'm there at 7 a.m. and if I like choose to go to bed like 11 or after and I'm getting up at 5,
yeah,
that is I feel like it's just more work. Not that I can't think, it's just it's just a little bit foggier. And
yeah,
if I choose to go to bed earlier and get up at that 5 a.m. hour, I'm way better
yeah,
performing wise.
yeah,
And she's way more disciplined than I am. I could learn a thing or two. I guess that's college athlete or whatever. And
yeah,
because she'll just say, "This is what I'm doing." And she'll just do it. Like she doesn't need this, like for me, I gotta have like things to chase, like goals and
right.
outside things, and I need to do this by this date. And she's just not like that. She's like, this is good for me, so this is what I'm doing.
So,
And
Anna, have you
I
always
wasn't
been
born
that way?
that way.
Well, has it been since college since you've been that way, or do you feel like
I
you've been that way before?
I've kind of always been that way. I remember being in high school and my brother, I don't feel like I'm outing him or anything, but he
Okay.
like said he was gonna do this like diet, I don't know, this like whole foods something.
Mhm.
And like day two, he like broke it and he couldn't
Oh,
do
wow.
it.
Okay.
And I looked at my mom And I looked at her and I said, I just don't get it. Like, just don't put that food in your body. Like, if you make a decision, like, why can't you stick to it? And
Yeah.
she was like, well, not everyone's wired like you, Anna. And I'm like,
Yeah.
that's just so, like, now I'm like, I get it. And like, I feel like the busier your life gets, like, there are some times when, like, it's not a choice. Fed is best, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
but it's like, I remember being younger and not understanding that and being like, it's a choice. Like, because he'd be like, I just can't. I'm like, yes, you can. Like,
Yeah.
I just didn't, I thought very black and white.
Yeah.
And so I think I've always been like wired that way.
Mhm.
But I definitely think college, I found like these things that are like my non-negotiables. And one thing is
Yeah.
if I say I'm gonna do something to myself, like I love a good attaboy. I love like external validation, but when it comes to like my health and stuff, like nobody
Mhm.
else has to like live in my body except me. And
Mm.
so I just, one of my non-negotiables is if I say I'm going to do something, if I make a promise to myself, like I'm going to keep it, because
Yeah.
I would keep a promise to her. Like if I made her a promise, I'd
Oh,
keep it, and I'd move heaven and earth to make sure that I kept my word. And so I try to treat myself the same way. And I'm not perfect. Like there are times when obviously I don't do that, but I try to.
right. Well, I love that, Anna, because and interestingly enough, your mom has made those same kind of comments on the podcast about her. You call it low hanging fruit. What's the low hanging fruit? What's the non negotiable for our
Mhm.
day?
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think it's really interesting because Dixie and I talk about this a good amount of time. Usually, our conversation in each week goes to this. We know it's good for us to do, so why don't we do it?
Hmm.
Like that mentality. So, like, we know that sleep, I know that getting in bed at 10 o'clock at night for me would be beneficial for my work day the next day. I would wake up fresh, sharp, like you both have said, not sluggish, but my focus would be a lot more direct, and it
Hmm.
has been. So why don't I do that? Is the reasoning for me wanting quiet time because I'm not doing something enough during my day? Is it because I don't feel like I can do anything different? Like, what's the sticking point for us for not creating that behavior on a regular basis? And I think it's really interesting to hear you say where like that that's just kind of how you think about it, and that
Mhm.
and that it's a choice. How hard is that choice?
I think sometimes it's harder than others. Like,
Mhm.
one thing that I have a really hard time with, and you both just mentioned it, is getting up early when I don't need to. Like for practice, my alarm went off once, I popped out of bed, but it's like I had a accountability, a reason. Like 20 other girls were about to show up at that beach at 6 a.m. Like I have to also,
Yeah.
but it's like in order to just get up just to have a slower morning, like I have a really hard time doing that. And
Yeah.
so, but therefore I like, no, I haven't really made like a goal of like get up earlier in a long time. And I think it's because like I know how hard that's going to be for me. And
Yeah.
is I like have to decide, is getting up earlier a non-negotiable? And currently in my life it is not. And
Yeah, it's a
so
season.
yeah, and so I haven't, like, that's one that I think if I decided like I'm gonna consistently get up at like 6 or 7 a.m., I would probably struggle through that a little more than
Yeah.
like getting up and being like, I'm gonna go on a daily walk plus my workout, drink
Yeah.
my water, like these things. Like, I actually enjoy those things. I enjoy the discipline of the structure of my day if that happens,
Mm.
and so
Mhm.
that's not as hard. So I think it just depends on like what you're choosing to change about your life.
Mhm. Yeah,
Mhm.
discipline and accountability. I like those 2 words that you just said. I
Mhm.
think those are really strong words, and I think that they're words that we can all really dive into depending upon the season of our life,
Yeah.
you know? I know I will tell you, and Dixie, you can speak to this. You have a solid routine that you follow every morning. I mean, it can ebb and flow depending upon the time of the day that like your work, like if you have a 12-hour day, if you have an 8-hour day, how early it starts, how late it starts, but you're very disciplined with what it is that your non-negotiables are.
I am.
So,
Yeah, for the morning time, and it doesn't always look the same. Like some mornings, like she said, like if I get up and I have a lot of time, I love to sit in the like with my journal and my Bible and my books and all the
mhm,
things. And I do that, my gratitude practice. And
mhm.
sometimes it's as simple as just taking a breath. It might be 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's like 30 minutes, but they're like gratitude is a non negotiable for me. I'm going to get up in the morning when my feet hit the floor before I leave my bedroom. I'm going to like do my 3 gratitudes. Like,
Mhm.
that's like a non-negotiable.
Yeah.
That works for me. But, what I noticed, going back to what she said about thinking sharp and like
Mhm.
her reaction time and all that, I noticed this week that it wasn't as hard for me to manage my mood at work. Um,
Oh,
I'm
okay.
typically pretty lighthearted. I'm like at work. I mean, I'm a bubbly personality. I like the bright side. I like the positive side. I don't like negative just makes me feel ick, and I
Right?
have to figure out how not to fall into that. But um this week was not as hard. Like I just
Mhm.
felt light and I felt like happy and it wasn't hard to be in a good mood. I didn't have to muster it up.
Yeah.
And I haven't done any research or read anything, but that has to be related to
Oh,
sleep.
yeah.
Yeah, I actually am reading this book called The Power of One More.
The Power of One
It's
More?
Ed Milet is who wrote it. It's a phenomenal book. It's changing my life.
It's
But
so
I'm
good.
writing it
yeah,
down
she's read
now.
it,
So
and
good.
all her notes are in it, which is fun. But
Oh,
well,
cool.
one thing he talks about is like he has these like 5 principles of time management, and one of them is about sleep, is about like
Okay.
getting enough sleep. And because he says that if you don't get enough sleep, and he didn't talk about like the correct time, but like if you get like 6 to 10, anywhere in that range,
Mhm.
he talked about like clock time and like brain time. He's like,
Yeah.
clock time doesn't change. Like you have 24 hours in a day, that will never change. But he was like, but when you start hearing people like statements of like, this day is just going so slow, or this day's flying by, like he's like, how can that be if like the 24-hour day that you live in doesn't change? And he
Mm,
says that sleep actually affects how you perceive time is passing. And when you're tired or when you don't get enough sleep, time tends to move quicker, like in your brain. And then you feel like you're not doing, like, you're not being productive, or like time's going too fast that you're almost like chasing it. And so I
wow.
wonder if also like that has something to do with like how you feel.
Hmm.
Like you feel lighter if you
100%.
like are more like in charge of your day, you know?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
perspective and your perception. That's
Hmm.
amazing. And 100% I agree with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
think that's a wonder. I think that's pretty foundationally sound what you just
Mhm.
said. Based on what it is that he's saying, because like that just was like ding ding ding.
Hmm.
All of that
Yeah.
for me. Yeah,
Yeah.
all of that. For
Right.
sure.
It's all in perception, but
Mhm.
it's directly linked to what you're doing what you're doing
Yeah.
physically is directly
So
linked to our mind, and back and forth. So,
if we know that and like you're reading that and that's a big bullet point for me, like everything that you just said. What is preventing me? I'll put myself in the hot seat here. What's preventing me from doing it on a regular basis? What's my holdback? Why do I not? If I know it's good for me, if I know sleeping 8 hours a night on average is good for me and it's going to create a better mood, it's going to create more hormone stabilization and secretion that's proper, it's going to give me a better perspective, better perception, sharpness, not so sluggish, focus, um, skin will look better, just yeah, all the things. What is it that holds us back from doing it?
well, what's keeping you up is important to you too, right? Your downtime, your
Yeah.
alone time. So I guess you just have to kind of choose or adjust. Maybe the downtime starts earlier. You just remove yourself rather than wait for everybody else to do their thing.
Oh, I like it.
I don't know. Just a
It's
thought.
the structure. Yeah, thank you for that. That it's the structuring. I think it's the structuring. We
Mhm.
have to find the structure that works for us. And I think
Mhm.
that's a really big takeaway for me in this year of us doing these different tasks each week is to find the takeaway that works for each person. It's not like
Mhm.
this is how you have to do it because this is what we said to do and this is what this research told us to do to try. You've
Right.
got to be able to figure out what works. I remember working with a client in the past, a personal training client, and we were talking about cleanses and it was the new year and they were like, I want to do this cleanse. Will you read about it? Tell me what you think about it. I'm like, well, I'm not a nutritionist. I can give you my input about how I feel about it and what that looks like. And so I read over it, did some research over the weekend, and I came back and I said, I think that you're going to have to adapt this behavior to what works in your lifestyle and
Mhm.
how that fits. And why is it what's your why? What's your why? Like
Mhm.
for Anna, the why was it was a non-negotiable because I felt good. It's a choice and I'm playing a college sport and I have other people depending on me. It's accountability
Yeah.
within that
Mhm.
discipline. So that's a big thing. So do we just tell ourselves, all right, and we just psych ourselves up and say, oh, I'm going to be, I have to do this because I'm going to be, someone's depending on me to do this? Or, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's the
All
difference. It's the difference too between I was watching what's his name? Simon Sinek. I don't know if you're familiar.
yeah.
He's I mean most people are familiar. He's phenomenal. But he was saying, if you go to the gym for an hour today,
Mhm.
um you're going to come home and look in the mirror. You're not going to see any difference. If you go to the gym tomorrow for an hour, you're going to come home, you're going to strip everything down and look in the mirror and you're going to be like, this isn't working. And you go the next day for an hour and you come home and you look in the mirror and you're like, this isn't working. And he
Mhm.
said, so the next day you go for 9 hours and you come home and you're like, this isn't working. And he said, because things don't happen just like that. It's
Mhm.
consistency over time. If you work out 9 hours in a day, it's not going to make a difference. But if you
Right.
work out 20 minutes every day for a year, it makes a difference. So
Yeah.
it's not setting yourself up for something that you can't attain. And I'm the queen of that. I always have the laundry list of these are all the things I need to do in a day
Yeah.
to meet a goal, reach a goal.
Yeah.
And then my coach is like, can we get that list down to three? And
Oh,
it may be
wow.
like 15 or 17 things on my list. Like, I'm not joking. Like,
Yeah.
I'll
Oh,
like say, I'm
same.
going to
I
do
can show you in my phone. My notes app
right,
has the same thing.
right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so she's like, can we get that list down to three? Can you just move, get your protein in and drink, water? Can we do that or sleep, whatever?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think it's important. I was talking to a girl yesterday and she wants to have a weight loss journey for 2025. And she said, um, I went to the grocery store and I bought all this stuff and I bought a bunch of salad. And she said, but I really don't like salad. And I
Mm,
said,
mhm.
so let me just say to you, I said, if you don't like salad, then don't make yourself eat it because once you reach your goal, you're just going to chuck it and go back to your old habits because you
Yeah.
never really liked it in the first place. And
Yes.
I said, what do you want to do? And she said, I'd like to lose 50 pounds this year. I said, well, let's break it down because my
Yeah.
coach did this for me because that's a goal for me in 2025. And I said, just break it down. That's 4 pounds a month, which is 1.19 pounds a week, which is 3,500 calorie deficit, which is about 400 calories a day. So
Yeah.
you can live a real enjoyable life and attain your 50 pounds this year. And she
Yeah.
was like, and I said, and you don't have to eat salad.
Right.
Find something you like. And
Yeah.
it's the same with sleep. If you're somebody who's getting like 4 hours of sleep a night and you're just like burning the candle at both ends, start with just adding 30 minutes to an hour. Go to bed 30
Yes.
minutes earlier. Because I know we were reading something about getting up early. This was years ago. And they were like, don't like if you normally get up at 8, don't just start getting up at 6. Start getting up
Mhm.
at 7:30 and
Yeah.
then bump it back to 7. Bump it back, like do it in increments where your body adjusts and you're not just like, whoa, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. It's making it feasible and it's
hmm
adjusting your body and your brain at the same time. I really like that. I
hmm
love, first of all, I love how you broke that down for that lady. With,
My
I
coach did
mean,
that for me like last week, and then she mentioned it, and I was like, "Look at here, I have a nugget.
let's go.
I
Yes.
have a nugget
And,
to
but
share."
furthermore, I love that I mean, you can apply that to anything. You
hmm
really can apply that to anything. Um,
Yes.
how did all of this work for you this week, Dixie? Like as a whole, is there anything that you feel like I can definitely do, or is there anything about the sleep hygiene that you did this week that you're like, that's not going to work for me for where I'm at in my life?
No, specifically for me, the days that I got less sleep than I wanted was when I was opening the
Mhm.
restaurant because I have to get up so early. But going God, I just love sleep, if we're gonna be honest. I can sleep in the middle of the day, I
Yeah.
can nap, I'm a napper, I just
Yeah.
love sleep.
Same.
But, for me, what I noticed specifically was in reference to my diet.
Mm,
Um, I was reading, and I heard this on a podcast, My coach heard it on a podcast, and then I read it somewhere. Um, like this was like a couple of weeks ago, or maybe right before we started this,
Yeah.
that I heard this. But somebody said, when you're looking at goals or like weight loss goals or whatever, and you ask people what are they going to do, most people say, well, I'm going to change my nutrition, I'm going to exercise. He said, if I gave you nutrition, exercise, and sleep, how would you prioritize those?
Oh, wow.
Most people are going to prioritize nutrition first.
Nutrition.
They're like,
Yeah.
I eat like crap. And
Yeah.
he said, but the truth of the matter is, if you should prioritize sleep first, because if you get enough sleep, you make better decisions. There's research
Mhm.
to show that. And
Mhm.
he said there's also research to show when you're sleep deprived that your body craves all the things that you don't have the mental capacity to make the best decision. You're going to go for the high carbohydrate food, the fried food, the
Yes.
whatever. Not that carbohydrates are bad, side note, but the
Yeah.
the things that aren't good for you. And
Right.
so that is something like I have before packed all of my food in a lunchbox, planned what meal I'm going to eat at the restaurant, had all my snacks, and didn't adhere to anything because I didn't get enough sleep. I tracked it back. So
Yeah.
this week, tracking my sleep and making sure I got it and going to bed early, and taking away the things that affect my sleep for the negative, like doing dry January, like alcohol messes with your
Mm.
sleep.
Mhm.
I'm always going to wake up in the middle of the night with a hot flash because I'm 54 and postmenopausal. So I know that's
Yeah.
happening. So to account for that too. But I noticed that this week I stuck to, ate everything in my lunchbox, stuck to my macros, hit my protein goal every day, and I didn't have those cravings. And I think, I don't know, it's just been a week, but I feel like I can trace part of that. Part of that is discipline and just deciding. But I also was getting enough sleep, so I
Mhm.
wasn't fighting something else to stay
Right.
on track.
Yeah. You're taking one of the elements and saying, and yeah, it's you're not fighting that battle. Yeah.
Right. So I've just taken that out of the picture. And
Yeah.
so now it's just up to me. But I did feel like I was more empowered. I
Yeah.
felt more energetic. I felt like I was in control.
Yeah.
And when I'm tired and I don't get enough sleep or I don't feel quite right, I don't make I haven't theoretically, in the past, made good decisions. So
Right.
this
Right.
has been a week of good decisions, which is amazing. So,
Oh, I'm so
and
proud of
I
you.
think it's all connected.
Yeah, absolutely. And I
Yeah.
love what you said about how people ultimately rate like working on yourself. I need to lose weight. I'm going to do the nutrition. I'm going to move more. And sleep is really not in that list
Mhm.
that they make and
Right.
how beneficial it is. And this is the why. This is the why. You feel different. You feel better. You feel more in charge. You feel more in control of your day and in control of your choices,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
I also think that for anyone who's like struggling to get enough sleep or like to make the decision, I
Mhm.
always think about like with like is no an option in your mind? Like if
Mm.
no is an option, then you will probably decide I'm not going to go to bed yet. I'm going to stay up and I'm going to either even if what you're doing is not negative, like I'm going to have this quiet time. That means that the choice to like go to bed at a certain time, that if no's an option, like you'll use it. And that's not always a negative thing. I think there are some things in our life where no needs to also be an option just because, like, to be
Yeah.
human.
Yeah.
But I just remember in my first years of college, our coach tracked our sleep for us. Like, we had like those little, like, we had a whoop,
Oh, the
like, on
Whoop
our
bands.
wrist.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she was connected to all of ours.
Oh,
And I remember this is my second year. My first year, she didn't really track it, but my second year, she did. And I remember being like, um, oh, I really don't want to go to bed. I want to hang out with my friends who are all doing
mm,
something. And I
mhm.
was like, but I know that she's going to look at my sleep tomorrow morning because we have weights at 6 a.m. once a week, and that's
Yeah.
tomorrow. And I'm going to be in the red if I don't go to bed right now.
Yeah.
And so she almost like the accountability almost like took the no away from me because I was like, I don't want to have that hard combo of why is
Yeah.
your sleep like this tomorrow? And
Right.
so I would go to bed. And I think that for like all my friends too who have like questions about different things, I'm like, have someone who like if you do make the decision like to not get enough sleep or to not whatever it is, to not drink or whatever.
Yeah.
I think if you have someone that you're gonna have to have a hard convo of admitting that you didn't do it, then that can help you start like making those habits, because it
Mhm.
takes about a month to like make a
Mhm.
habit like something that's just natural to you. And so
Yeah.
I think that even for someone who's like, I don't even know where to start, like even being like finding a friend who like also wants to do it and being
Yep.
like, let's do this together, because then we have to talk about it if we don't, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. And we're in the throes of the new year. And so what this is upon us, by the time this airs, it's within January, February. So it's a good time to set those accountability frames, if you will. And I
Mhm.
like that. I mean, we can all be accountable to somebody, especially when it's something that's proactive and productive for all of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For
I
sure.
love that. Make no, what'd you say? No,
Uh,
not an option.
Well, like for some things, like for sleep, for
Mhm.
eating, for working out, like no's not an option.
Yeah, I love that.
Like if
No
I
is
don't want to
not an
do it,
option.
no's not an option.
I
Mhm.
love it. Love
Yeah.
it. No, it's not an option. Get your
No
sleep,
is not
people.
an option. Get your sleep, folks.
I just
Yes.
noticed if you do air this in February that we look like Mardi Gras. You're purple. I'm green.
There we go.
I
There
know
we
my
go.
brain is like squirrel all the time.
I
Right.
don't know. You got enough sleep, so it's like all tabs are firing. That's the way I look
That's
at it.
right. That's right.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
Yay. All
So
right, guys.
very fun.
Well, I'm so glad to have you guesting with us today, Anna.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks,
you so
Anna
much.
Boo.
Thanks for having me.
Oh my God, I loved it. Loved it. Will you do it again sometime?
Yes, of course.
Yes, please, please, please. I love your insights. And I think that's how we learn from people is hearing about what it is that works for you, what it is that your perspective has been, what your experience has been. And that's how we connect ourselves to be better and understand more about ourselves by hearing those stories and those valuable pieces of information that others have to deliver that worked for them, that didn't work for them, that were productive, that were not so great. Everything that we can glean is just a really beautiful reflection of other people. And I want to thank you for being a beautiful reflection for us today on our sleep and everything in between. Because let's face it, we don't just talk about the same subject when we come on here, do we ever,
Oh
Dixie?
no, we always, run the gamut, but she always has good things to say. She's got good nuggets hanging out in her brain. So
Let's
I
go.
love it when she gives her perspective. So yeah.
Well, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. I'm looking at you, Mama.
Oh, you're very sweet.
Yeah. Well, guys, until next time, I'm Dawn and
I am Dixie and
I'm Anna.
let's go, guys. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
all right, bye guys.